Anyone need the white balance? Everyone got white balance?
Yeah, mic check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are here at Toronto Police Headquarters. And the conference will begin in exactly 2.5 minutes. Mic check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, no problem. The conference will begin in exactly 2 minutes. Hey, Kev, can you make sure that we're almost at 1 minute and I don't see them? We're almost at 1 minute and I don't see them there. Oh. Yeah, thanks. 1 minute. Sorry? Sorry, I think there might be a delay. I apologize for that. Who am I to tell the chief? I don't know. I'm just... No, okay. Conference, 20 seconds. Yeah. 10 seconds. Good morning and thank you. Good afternoon and thank you very much for coming to police headquarters. Today I'd like to introduce to you Chief William Blair, who will be addressing the media in response to the defamation notice. Chief.
Thank you, Vincent, and good afternoon, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. I will read a prepared statement and then answer some of your questions at the conclusion. On August the 5th, 2014, Councillor Doug Ford spoke to the press and made a number of false and slanderous statements which attacked my professional reputation and my personal integrity. In response, I issued a statement stating that Doug Ford was lying and that I was prepared to take legal action. Mr. Ford began to retreat from his comments, but failed to fully and completely acknowledge that his statements had been false and totally without foundation. Anyone in this job has to be prepared and to expect criticism and attacks. Those come with a turf. But lies that go to the heart of your integrity cannot be tolerated. They can never be part of an acceptable public dialogue. The law does not protect lies or the people who tell them, and they must be held accountable. Having been unable to obtain a clear and unequivocal retraction of his false statements, I proceeded on August 11th to serve Mr. Ford with a notice of defamation. In that notice, I required a clear and unequivocal retraction of all of the false statements and allegations made by Mr. Ford, as well as an apology. I required that retraction in writing. His comments that followed were neither clear nor unequivocal. It was important to me to get a retraction and apology in writing so that there could be no confusion among those who had heard or read about Mr. Ford's false statements. This morning, I have received through my legal counsel a signed copy of Mr. Ford's statement in response to my notice of defamation. In this statement, which Mr. Ford is required to publish, he will retract all of his false statements and fully and completely apologize for the damage he has caused to my reputation. My intention in initiating this action was to compel Mr. Ford to acknowledge that his statements were false and to apologize. I have tried to avoid being dragged down into what has been often called a war of words, and I have generally declined to respond to personal attacks. I cannot, however, ignore lies and false statements that go to the heart of my personal and professional reputation. In all such cases, I intend to vigorously defend myself and hold those who would engage in such conduct to account. In any defamation action, there is the issue of damages. It was always my intention that any monies recovered in damages would be donated to a charity of my choice, a charity that makes a difference in the quality of people's lives in this city. And in resolving this matter today, I have asked Mr. Ford to make a donation in the amount of $1,000 to Covenant House. I'm on the board of Covenant House. Covenant House is an important institution in the City of Toronto. It provides shelter and services to homeless youth in this city, and it does extraordinary work to make this a better city for everyone. I am pleased to tell you that Mr. Ford has agreed to make that donation. Finally, I wish to address the issue arising from the disclosure of information concerning the serving of a subpoena in a criminal matter. There has been some suggestion that a member of the Toronto Police Service may have been involved in this, thereby calling into question the integrity of the rank-and-file members of the service. The integrity of the service is my responsibility. And as the Chief of Police, I have a responsibility not only to stand up for my own personal integrity, but to ensure and to stand up for that of the service and its members. And therefore, this matter has been investigated. And I can advise you today that we have been advised by the reporter who originally disclosed this information that she received the information from a non-police source. I accept that information from her at her word. I am therefore satisfied that no member of the Toronto Police Service compromised their integrity or their oath of office. And I'll be happy to take your questions now.
Are you accepting Doug Ford's formal written apology? Is this matter now closed?
I accept the statement that I have received from him, the signed statement that I received from him in its totality, which includes both an apology, includes all of an apology, a retraction, and his offer to make a donation to Covenant House. All of that, in my opinion, resolves this matter satisfactorily.
Chief, sure, this can't be the first time someone said something negative about you. What made this different?
You know, it comes with the job, as I have said. You get attacked, you get criticized, and frankly, you can't do this job if you can't do that. But lies are something different. When someone just makes a bald-faced statement, which is clearly and demonstrably a lie, you have to stand up to that. You have to call that into question, and that's what I chose to do. Quite frankly, I can live with, that's part of the job, with fair comment. The law protects fair comment. Everybody's entitled to an opinion. The law does not protect lies. And when someone lies about you, you've got a responsibility to stand up and say, that's a lie. And if you can't get them to retract it properly, then you have to compel that through legal action, and that's what I've done.
Chief, the public has yet to hear from you regarding the police board's decision not to renew your contract. What are your thoughts?
The board had that responsibility to make that decision. I notified the board that my intention and my willingness to continue. They made the decision and advised me of it. I respect that decision, and I thank them for their consideration of my application.
In subsequent comments, though, it sounds like a lot of the dispute between you and the board was over cutting the police budget.
I'm not going to comment on that. I have said right from the outset that this matter, the matter of my renewal, was a confidential matter between myself and the board. My expectation is that discussion would take place in a professional and respectful way. And I'm not going to comment further on that. I'm quite satisfied. I've conducted myself in that way, and I'm going to continue to do so.
In the big picture, though, do you think you did enough to rein in the police budget over your time as chief?
Well, again, I think history will determine that. My responsibility is to manage the police service and to keep the city of Toronto safe. I've done my best. And I'm going to be in that office until the end of April, and I'm going to continue to do my best to keep the city safe and to manage the police service in as cost-effective, efficient, and economical way as can be done.
Chief, if you're not replaced before the election and a new services board is brought in, would you consider throwing your name in the ring?
I'm not going to speculate. My board has made a decision, and I accept and respect that decision. And any speculation about what may or may not happen in the future, we'll leave to the future. But quite frankly, I have been advised by the board that my contract's not being renewed. I remain in my position until April 25th, 2015. I've got a job to do, and I'm just going to continue doing it. And I'll leave those discussions or thoughts to others. I'm going to stick with the job I've got.
I know, Chief, there are some who have been calling for you to resign early to save the money that would go toward your severance.
Well, again, quite frankly, I've got a job to do. I'm appointed as the chief of the Toronto Police Service. The service needs a chief, and I'm it. I'm going to keep doing my job. And quite frankly, the opinion of some opinion columnist or a talk radio host, they're entitled to their opinion, but I'm not feeling terribly compelled by that.
So this chapter, in your review of the board's, this chapter may be over, but is the investigation into the mayor still ongoing?
I want to be really clear. I've heard many media accounts suggesting that there's a war of words going on between us. I would suggest to you that I've been rather circumspect. There was quite a tirade of false statements made about me on August the 5th. My response was 12 words long. It's hardly a war of words. I just sort of called it for what it was and advised you all of what I was going to do about it. I'm not engaging in a war of words. I have no interest in that. I got a job to do. My job is to run the police service and keep the city of Toronto safe.
And is the criminal investigation into the mayor still ongoing?
And again, several months ago, I turned that investigation over to another police service for oversight, and the investigators that are working on that are not reporting to me. So I'm not going to comment on any ongoing criminal investigation, and certainly not on that one.
Chief, are you surprised at the way that the decision on your contract was announced? How quickly they made their decision, how public it was?
I've been a police chief for a long time. I'm rarely surprised.
Disappointed?
What's that?
Were you disappointed?
I had hoped to be renewed, and I wasn't. And so I'm not going to comment further on that. I accept the decision, and I thank them for their consideration.
Blair, you're not discounting the possibility that you will throw your hat in the ring again if a decision isn't made by the current board and it moves to the...
I have not given that matter any thought whatsoever. I'm not going to comment on it.
Blair, with what's going on in Ferguson, Missouri, with the shooting of Michael Brown, how do you ensure that doesn't happen in Toronto?
Well, first of all, we're very, very concerned about the concern that exists within our own community about such events. We work really closely with the minority communities here in Toronto, and we have an outstanding working relationship with so many people in our communities who help us deliver policing services in a fair and equitable manner, and we are working very hard to make sure that such a tragedy does not occur here. But at the same time, I think those relationships that we have worked for so many years, decades, on building, and that the trust that exists between us would help us through such a crisis. But at the same time, I'm also confident that there's a great deal in place in the training of our people and the work that they do that it would be less likely to happen here.
Chief Blair, your severance has been called a little bit rich by our mayor. What do you say to that?
I'm not going to respond to, that's essentially political rhetoric, and I don't speak to that. There's a campaign going on. I'll leave that politics to those politicians. The terms of my employment, quite frankly, are a confidential matter between myself and my board, and I'm not going to speak to it.
Chief, what's next for you after April?
I really haven't turned my mind to it. I got work to do now, Don, and you know, this is a big city, and we've got to keep it safe, and I've got a big police service to manage, and we've got a number of interesting challenges facing us. We're looking at preparation and the budget discussions that will take place with our board and the city in the coming months. We have some things to plan for that will even occur well after April. The Pan Am Games is a very significant issue, and some challenges facing the City of Toronto and the Toronto Police Service. So we've got a lot of work to do, because we're going to stay focused on that. And then when that job is done, I'll turn my mind to other things. Frankly, I have no aspirations in that way. I'm a cop and have been a cop for a long time. I've still got a police officer's job to do, and I'm going to keep doing it.
Chief Blair, some reports suggest that the vote for your contract was 6-1, surprised by the lack of support from city councilors, civilian members on the board?
Again, I'm not going to comment on any aspect of the board's decision. They have the board, as a total entity, has that responsibility to consider that and to come to a decision. They came to a decision and they advised me of it. What takes place in the confidentiality of their deliberations is their responsibility, and only they should comment. It's not appropriate for me to speak to it.
You know this job better than anyone. What should your successor be? Who should it, well, not specifically names, but what are the qualities your successor will need for this job?
Again, I don't think it's appropriate for me to comment on that, but I can tell you there are some extraordinary police leaders within the Toronto Police Service and across the province of Ontario and across Canada that I've had the privilege of working with, and I hope that appropriate consideration will be given to their skills, their abilities, and what they can bring to this job. The future of the Toronto Police Service demands the very best of us every day, and certainly in the selection of the new chief. And so I'm pleased to know that there are so many good people within my organization and good people from without my organization that the board will have an opportunity to pick from.
10 years, what is a defining moment in your 10 years as chief?
When I get to the end of 10, I'll talk to you about it.
Does it have to be a police officer to be a chief?
What's that?
Does it have to be a police officer that's going through the rank and file? Or can it be
Yeah, actually, the Police Services Act requires that. It's a legislative requirement, statutory requirement in the province of Ontario. But there are ways in which a person can then get qualified as a police officer, so it's not an insurmountable barrier. Again, it's a determination on what's the best for the city, and that's a responsibility of the board, so I'm sure they'll turn their mind. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. Have a good day.
That concludes today's conference.